Being rewarded feels, well, rewarding. And there are times when it's right to reward yourself, and retirement is one of those. So why do so many people not do it? I'm Wes Wood, the Income Guy, and I'm founder and president of Wood Financial Group. And for nearly 20 years, I specialize in helping hardworking Americans just like you reach their retirement goals through income-based financial strategies. And if you're looking for the right solutions to achieve your own financial goals, I can help. Just reach out to me at retiretv.com or by calling 855-776-0614 on today's show or at any time. You know, retirement really should be the time when it's okay to reward yourself. You've worked hard and you sacrifice. You've earned your reward. But many people never collect theirs. Why, you ask? The main reason is because they don't feel comfortable with it financially. Is that really because they can't afford the reward? Or could it be that they just have the wrong financial strategy? Well, we'll answer that question and many others on today's show as we cover why rewarding yourself at retirement, what it means and why it's so important, why so many people don't reward themselves, and how investing for income can actually give you a permission slip to reward yourself. And joining us again on this week's show is David Scranton. David is an investing for income specialist with over 30 years of experience, and he's also a best-selling author and television host. But before we welcome Dave, let's talk more about what rewarding yourself in retirement means and why it's actually a very good thing to do. And when I talk about rewarding yourself, naturally, I don't mean being reckless with your spending, and I don't mean living high on the hog and with no thought about tomorrow. That's not rewarding yourself at all. That's just being foolish. But chances are, there's something that you've always wanted to do, or perhaps own, or maybe there's a place that you've wanted to travel to, and maybe you had an idea to go there or do something like that once you've retired, and it's time to go for it. You might even have included it as one of your retirement goals. But now that retirement is here, you're reluctant to collect on that reward. You don't want to spend the money. And you're afraid that right after you do, some big financial emergency is going to come through and make it to where you regret that decision. And these feelings are common. And it's common to soothe that disappointment by telling yourself you're being good by not collecting on your reward. You're being practical, and sometimes that can be the right decision. But always making that decision has its downside. Rewarding yourself may sound frivolous, but the truth is self-rewards can do a lot to keep you balanced, centered, and motivated to be healthy in all areas of your life. It's the old idea of positive reinforcement. When behavior is followed by a pleasant outcome, you're more likely to repeat that behavior. But on the flip side, when a pleasant outcome is denied, you may end up resenting all the good habits it took to achieve it, like discipline, sacrifice, and positive thinking. In other words, being overly concerned about your financial health can have a negative effect on your mental, emotional, and sometimes your physical health. So why do so many people fall into this trap during retirement, and what's the key to avoiding it? And you'll hear more about that in just a minute. And of course, anytime you can reach out to me by visiting retiretv.com or by calling 855-776-0614 to receive your free retirement income kit. But right now, let's welcome David Scranton. He's the founder of Sound Income Strategies and the Retirement Income Store. Dave, thanks again for joining me today.
Hey, it's great to be here, of course, as usual. And this is a great topic, this concept of rewarding yourself, because I think too many people plan to retire and just get by, the necessary stuff. But why again, is it so important to focus on the rewards, the little extras, when you're approaching retirement?
Well, I think it's just a desire to maybe want to buy something or be able to travel or just have the freedom to reward yourself is really a positive reinforcement, right? Because if we go throughout retirement not rewarding ourselves and being, too, not enjoying really the things that we desire to do while we're working, then we're not really enjoying the retirement that we ought to.
So give me an example, Wes. Give me an example of something one of your clients did to really spend some money to treat themselves when they're retired.
Oh, sure. Yeah, just this last month, I was meeting with a client that just retired from a large company here in Middle Tennessee. And the one thing they wanted to do the first few years of retirement was to travel the country in a motorhome. So what did he do? He rewarded himself when he retired by buying a big truck and a pull-behind a trailer. And at this moment, they're traveling all across the West in their motorhome. And he did that because he wanted to not only reward himself for retiring, but he knew that he could be able to, because he's generating enough in interest and dividends from his portfolio to spend a little bit of extra. So he had a permission slip to be able to buy that motorhome that he always wanted.
So when you save for a goal, why is it that when you're retired, you tend to get to that goal financially, but then you deny yourself that reward? But yet when you're a kid, if you save for something, you never denied yourself. You always went to get it. What's the difference?
I think the big difference is when you're a kid, you can always fall back on your mom and dad to be there for you, right? I'll never forget the first job I ever had. I was bagging groceries at H.G. Hills, which is a grocery store in town. And I was 13, bagging groceries, and the very first paycheck that I got, I spent it on baseball cards, of all things. So that's how I rewarded myself, and I spent every dime of it. But I knew that, hey, my mom and dad were always going to continue to put food on the table for me, and I had shelter over my head, so I wasn't worried about it. So I think the big transition is that when we were kids, we knew that we could depend on our home life to be there for us.
Mm-hmm. Now, Mom was instrumental, though, with you adopting this income model and this concept of rewarding yourself and being able to spend money with a clear conscience.
Right.
Tell us about that.
Well, that's just that. Like Mom always said, only spend the interest that your money's making, never spend from the principal, which is exactly how, and we ought to follow Mom's advice when we're retiring, getting close to retirement. Only spend the interest and dividends that principal is generating for us. Kind of like a child that was able to, like I was, and I'm sure you were, able to just buy kind of some silly things to reward ourselves for maybe doing some chores around the house because we knew we could fall back on our mom and dad, just like we should be able to fall back on those interest and dividends that portfolio is generating for us. Follow Mom's advice.
Isn't it just amazing how Mom today seems so much smarter than she seemed when you were only 13 years old?
Yeah, you got that right. So Mom was always right, I guess, looking back on it. But, well, hey, Dave, thanks again. Stay with us, and right after the break, we're going to talk about how, for many, not rewarding yourself boils down to a strategic problem. You're watching Wes Wood, the Retirement Income Show. We'll be right back.
A fiduciary is someone legally obligated to act in your best interest. Doctors, lawyers, and some financial advisors are fiduciaries, but not all. When you work with Wes Wood and his team at Wood Financial Group, you are working with fiduciaries. They help clients create customized investment portfolios based off their retirement goals. If you're ready to work with a fiduciary, visit retiretv.com and schedule a free, no-obligation conversation with Wes or a Wood Financial Group advisor.
I'm David Scranton. During my career, I found that most baby boomers have done a great job growing their retirement savings, yet many don't know how to convert their savings into steady income. And that is why I built the Retirement Income Store, to help hardworking Americans preserve their assets and establish steady streams of income.
If you're 55 or older, please claim our free Retirement Income Kit, chock full of information you need to know to get steady income during your retirement. Call 866-714-7377, online at theretirementincomestore.com.
Welcome back. I'm Wes Wood, the Income Guy, and today we're talking about rewarding yourself in retirement. Hey, glad you're watching. So far, we talk about what rewarding yourself in retirement really means and why it's so important. Now let's talk about why so many people just don't do it. We all know what it feels like to look forward to something only to be disappointed. That feeling is common when it comes to retirement. You might be You might be chomping at the bit the last few years of work, only to find yourself restless and worried when you're finally retired. You might find yourself suddenly wondering if you really are prepared for it as well as you should have. And this gets to the heart of why so many people resist rewarding themselves in retirement, even when a certain reward is one of their goals for retirement. It's because they realize only after retirement starts how much their world has really changed. It changes financially, it changes socially and emotionally, in almost every single way possible. And if you haven't made a proactive shift to prepare for those changes, you might end up making the very different sort of reactive shift. We don't want that. For a lot of people, that means a shift towards fear and uncertainty. That's why it's so important to have a financial plan that can help you identify and prepare for all those issues and challenges that are unique to retirement. And there's a lot of issues and challenges unique to retirement. Take healthcare, for instance. Even if you're doing everything right healthcare-wise, it's a simple fact, as you get older, the odds are a lot greater of having that major medical expense. And on top of that, your day-to-day healthcare costs go up with age at a much steeper and faster rate than you may even realize. And that brings up something else that goes up, inflation. It's another thing that might come as a wake-up call if you're not prepared for it when you retire. And inflation, unfortunately, it's going to hit those older Americans much harder than the general population for a variety of reasons. But one of the main ones is healthcare inflation. And also, we got to worry about taxes, Social Security, required minimum distribution, insurance, the complexities of estate planning, long-term care, and the list goes on and on and on. And if you're not fully confident you can meet those challenges, how can you even think about giving yourself a permission slip to reward yourself? And I'm going to talk more about that in just a moment with David Scranton. But right now, here's another opportunity for you to reach out to me directly. And you can call me at 855-776-0614 or visit retiretv.com to receive your free retirement income kit. Now let's welcome back income specialist David Scranton. Welcome back, Dave.
Thanks, Wes. So a lot of people, I could hear what you're saying. You're saying planning for retirement needs to be more holistic. It's not just about the money. But you know that when you get a few people really come to your office that actually have done a lot of planning for retirement, those that seem more prepared, isn't it true that most of them are focusing on the financial preparations, but not the rest of the holistic stuff that, as you often say, is even more important in many ways?
Yeah, I mean, financial is just one part of it. Taking care of but you need to be holistic when it comes to retirement because now you're not going to a job anymore. So you got to be thinking about, hey, how am I going to fill up my time? How am I going to take care of my health? What kind of maybe hobbies and interests are going to drive you to stay motivated? And also, maybe you have some goals that you want to be doing in retirement. So not just making sure financially you're okay. That's just one piece of it. But the reason to make sure that those finances are in order is to take care of all the other things that you really want to be doing in retirement. So it's important to think about it on a holistic level, not just one element of retirement.
I think people too underestimate how much fulfillment they get from going to work every day, and how when they stop going to work and they lose that sense of fulfillment, that it's got to be replaced with other rewards. But now, okay, I want to retire and I want to buy a muscle car because I dreamt of having one when I was in high school and I couldn't afford it back then. But that's a general goal. It's not very specific. Do you mind sharing for a moment why that might not be as big of a motivator to me as if I had spelled out that goal more specifically?
Oh yeah, because whenever you're thinking about goals, we found that it's better to be more sensory specific. Really take the time to imagine what you want to be doing in retirement or what you want. And by doing that, we activate what's called a reticular activating system where we are constantly thinking about it and actually pushes us towards that thing that we want. Maybe it is that muscle car or sports car, but that's just an item. But really taking the time to think about, you driving the car, what color you want, maybe what type of interior you'd like to see in it, or perhaps how much, updates you want to have on that particular car. Really motivates people to get it done and to save up the money to do it. Perhaps cut some cost here to purchase that item that they want. But that's not the only thing. A lot of people in retirement should take the time to, or getting close to retirement, should take the time to imagine what they want to be doing with their time. Maybe they want to spend more time volunteering or with their grandchildren or picking up and going on vacation. Traveling is a big one in retirement. And by really taking the time and using more sensory-specific methods of planning for your goals, people are much more likely to achieve them once they get to that stage of life.
You know, it was funny, you just did a show recently where you talked about having income as kind of a renewable resource. So, but by having that coming in as a renewable resource, where your clients know that each and every year they can count on that income, doesn't that kind of sort of give them a permission slip, if they will, from each other or maybe from their children, that now they can go out and they can reward themselves periodically and they can actually have a fulfilling retirement?
Yep, that's right. Because if they know they have a certain amount of income coming in from their investments in the form of a renewable source or a fixed income that they know is going to show up in their portfolio on a monthly, quarterly, or semi-annual basis, then they know that income is always going to show up. It's kind of like the idea of having rental property versus raw land. Raw land, you can't really spend that. But if you know you have rental property that's generating you the same rent checks every single month that's going to show up in your mailbox, well, now it kind of gives you that permission slip to spend that rent checks on some of the things that you want. Perhaps that muscle car that you mentioned. Just the same is true with dividends and interest from an investment portfolio. And so we can spend a little bit of extra money on the things that we really want by investing for income and making that switch from growth to income. But thanks again, Dave, and coming up after the break, I'll share more details about how investing for income can give you that permission slip to reward you and your spouse in retirement. I'm Wes Wood, and you're watching the Retirement Income Show.
Retirement accounts like 401ks and IRAs are great tools to save for retirement. They offer tax advantages to help keep more money in your pocket. But withdrawing money from your accounts can have a huge impact on your tax liability. Take money from the right account at the right time and you could minimize it. But taking money from the wrong account at the wrong time could result in a big tax burden. If you're not sure what you should do with your 401k in retirement, visit retiretv.com to schedule a free, no-obligation conversation with Wes Wood and Wood Financial Group.
Hi, I'm Wesley Wood, host of the Retirement Income Show, and I'm founder and president of Wood Financial Group. And we're a local independent financial services company that specializes in creating custom retirement solutions tailored to meet your particular needs.
Visit retiretv.com to learn how we can help you create a customized retirement portfolio.
Welcome back. I'm Wes Wood, the Income Guy. Hey, thanks for joining me today. So far, I've talked about what rewarding yourself in retirement means and why so many people end up not doing it. Now, let's talk about how investing for income gives you that permission slip to claim your reward with peace of mind. Most guys and plenty of gals have a dream car. It's a car that we've dreamed of owning when we were teenagers. And if you've ever been to one of those classic car sales or auctions, you know the vintage cars, the 60s and 70s, they can go for some pretty steep prices. Maybe $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, perhaps even higher. And these cars are typically ones like Mustangs and Camaros and Chargers and other sweet rides that you may have longed for in your youth. And you might have even thought one day, hey, I want to own one of those. Now ask yourself, on average, how many guys who goes to car shows and auctions typically feel comfortable spending $50,000 or more on their dream car? And if someone's who once vowed to reward themselves with their car, are they even going to be able to do that when they retire? Even if they have a sizable portfolio, are they going to do it? The answer in my The answer in my experience is that not many people have or do. And the main reason is more mental than financial. It boils down to the fact that they're still mainly invested in entirely or mostly invested in growth-based financial strategies, which means it doesn't allow them to see income as a renewable resource. Think about it. If you had $1 million in a mutual fund and it went up, you'd probably feel pretty happy. But would you really feel comfortable by selling shares of it to buy your dream car? Probably not, because you realize that if the market suddenly dropped, that withdrawal might never be recovered. And you realize that the mutual fund isn't a renewable resource. Now think about the same $1 million invested in bond and bond-like instruments, generating, let's say, $50,000 a year in interest and dividends over the life of that bond. Well, in just 2 years, you would have generated more than double the amount of money to buy that dream car for cash. In other words, it'd be like having a permission slip from yourself or from your spouse to spend the money because you know the strategy you're invested in income is a renewable resource. And on top of that, you have a contract guaranteeing you that you're going to get your $1 million back if you hold the bond till maturity. Knowing that the principal is secure puts you at ease about things like healthcare and inflation, taxes, and all the other challenges we talked about. And it gets even better, as Dave Scranton and I will talk about in just a moment how it gets better. But first, here's another chance for you to learn more about investing for income by reaching out to me at retiretv.com or by calling 855-776-0614 to receive your free retirement income kit. Now let's welcome back income specialist and the founder of the Retirement Income Store, David Scranton. Thanks, Dave.
Wes, I love the fact that you used my goal of that exotic car, because I don't think it's just me. I think it's a lot of your viewers that sat there in high school and thought, wow, this old muscle car, I really would love to have it, but just couldn't afford it. So I love it. And
Yeah.
you know, we talked before in the last segment about it's kind of like being a permission slip to be able to spend the money. What we're really saying is it gives you the ability to spend that money with a clear conscience and to do it stress-free. So when you do get that thing that you've been, that you've had as a goal, in this case, the muscle car, you can actually enjoy it, right?
That's right. It's kind of like you've earned it because you've earned it in the form of interest and dividends through your portfolio. And if you just spend those interest and dividends from the principal, not taking from the principal, but just from the interest dividends that principal is producing for you, it's just like any other type of form of income. It's there for you. And we know it's going to show up the following year and give you more income later on in life. And so, heck, if you took maybe a year's worth of interest and dividends, and it's going to, basically show back up in the portfolio the following year. And so if we know that we're not actually liquidating shares or taking from the account in order to do so, it definitely makes, at least my clients have much better peace of mind when they're buying things like that.
And one of the things I've always heard you said is the perfect retirement is having more income each and every year during retirement for the rest of your life than you need, because that way there, okay, let's say you had a medical emergency. Well, now you don't have to dip in the savings. You just delay that muscle car or that new kitchen for maybe 1 year, because 1 year's worth of income goes to medical emergency, and then you're back on track again.
That's right. That's right. And if you think about investing for growth versus income, it's really, people are much less likely to reward themselves just from growth of a portfolio. I used this analogy just a couple weeks ago, but I think it's important to bring up again. Think about if you had a $500,000 mutual fund. Well, if that mutual fund grew $250,000 to $750,000, you're probably not going to just liquidate some shares to buy that muscle car or to take that trip that you've always wanted to do. But in reverse, let's just think if that portfolio went from $500,000 and got cut in half down to $250,000, well, then you're definitely not going to buy the muscle car, and you may even cancel that big trip that you planned for. But the difference is investing for income is if you know that $20,000, $25,000 of interest and dividends is just going to show up again, well, maybe you save it up for a couple of years and then buy that sports car and reward yourself.
And it's funny because what you're saying isn't just because the money may not be there. Person may have an account somewhere else where there's plenty of money to still reward themselves. But I think a lot of your clients are probably like you shared before, the reason you don't like to go to the casino is because if you win $1,000, you might get this much joy and pleasure. But if you lose $1,000, you'll get this much anguish. The pain is much greater than the pleasure. So emotionally, when people lose money, kind of like you're wired, right? They don't want to go and spend it.
That's right. I ask folks all the time, hey, if this portfolio happened to double in value, is it really going to change your lifestyle that much? And the common answer is no. But I ask them again, well, hey, if the portfolio gets cut in half, how is that going to make you feel? And you can see the pain. They say, well, I wouldn't like it, and I'd get very, very stressed out. So yeah, that's right. That's the problem with investing for growth there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so you're not alone. It's a lot of people are wired that way. And you know, as Socrates said, know thyself. As long as you know yourself and how you react with money, that'll help prevent you from doing silly things, bottom line.
Yeah, making some mistakes. And thanks again. And hey, I'm Wes Wood, the Income Guy, and I want to thank you for watching. And if you have any questions about anything we've covered on today's show, please reach out to me at retiretv.com or by calling 855-776-0614. Hey, thanks again, and we'll see you again next week. Hi, I'm Wesley Wood, host of the Retirement Income Show, and I'm founder and president of Wood Financial Group. And we're a local independent financial services company that specializes in creating custom retirement solutions tailored to meet your particular needs.
Visit retiretv.com to learn how we can help you create a customized retirement portfolio.